Hi, in this video, we're going to look at how the banks look at bond financing in an environment where we've been under lockdown for 6 months and more. And the economy has really felt the impact of the lockdown. And the question that a lot of investors have is will the banks still give me bond finance? And today we're going to look at that. We're going to look at specifically, is bond finance available? Who's it available to? We're going to look at, is 100% bond finance available? And we're even going to look at, are starter bonds still available? A starter bond is where the bank provides you 100% finance plus an extra 4% to cover the transfer costs. So we're going to look at all of those in this video. But before I get into detail, I just want to remind you that we've got a free giveaway. It's an exciting free giveaway that's available at the end of September. We're giving away a gift that is worth more than R1,000 to one of our subscribers, but more details later. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you learned something. Okay, so the first question we want to talk about is bond finance available? And the simple question is yes. The banks are still in the business of lending money for a profit. And like any other business out there, they're still trying to make a profit, and they are. And what's happened in South Africa is, and all over the world in fact, is governments have brought down the interest rate to make funding more affordable. And that's great news for us investors. And the question is, how do we exploit it? The answer to the first question is finance available? And the answer is a resounding yes, it is available. Then secondly, is 100% available? In other words, can you go and borrow a full 100% of the purchase price of the property? And to those who are in property, it's like, oh, well, of course, everyone tries to get 100% bonds. But to those who are entering the market, it's a bit of a wow moment. It's like, can I get 100% bond finance? Is it possible for me to buy property and have somebody else pay for it? That's a bit weird. And it's true. It's true. 100% bonds are available. What the banks do is they look at your own personal affordability. In other words, they look at your monthly cash flow and see, has this person got enough money to carry on paying his bond and all of his levies and his rates, even if he doesn't have a tenant? The other thing they look at is your credit score. In other words, how have you behaved yourself financially? Are you one of these people who is a bit sloppy with your finance and you have debit orders bouncing all the time? Are your credit card payments late? Even by 1 day, it's going to really affect you. So the bank looks to see how disciplined you are. In other words, once you sign on the dotted line, do you keep your commitments? And based on that, they give you a credit score. So they look at your affordability and your credit score. And I'm going to get into more detail later in this video. I'm actually going to do a calculation for you to show you exactly how the bank work it out. And the banks are all different, but they have the same basic formula. And then I also want to talk about 104% bonds. The bond, some banks, what they do is they offer bond finance for the first time home buyer. And the why they do this is it's an incentive to them to capture these young, upwardly mobile people. Give them a bond, get them into our bank, get them a bank account. And so they incentivize that. And the transfer costs are about 5%, depending on the purchase price, of course. When I say the transfer costs, I'm talking about bond registration, attorney's costs, and your property registration costs. So mostly attorney's costs and deeds office fees and so on. And that comes to about 5%. But if you get a starter bond or a first-time home buyer bond or whatever the bank calls it, they'll lend you 104% of the purchase price. So you can actually buy a townhouse for 600,000 or 700,000 rand and only have to take 10,000 rand out of your pocket, and you borrow the rest of it from the bank. If 100% bond finance is available, or 104% is available, and my credit score is good, exactly how much do I have to earn to be able to get a bond like this? And I'm going to show you on the whiteboard here. Just bear with me a second and we'll move across to the whiteboard. In this exercise, we're looking at buying a property of 600,000 rand, and the question is, can I afford it? And how do the banks look at me? How do they look at me and say, can this person afford this property? So let's look at the numbers. You can see here we have a purchase price of 600,000, and below it I have 34,000 rand. Now that 34,000 rand is your transfer cost. It's not transfer duty. There is no transfer duty for a property of this price. Transfer duty is only applicable for much higher purchase prices. So this 34,000 Rand is entirely attorney's fees, and that's the money, that's what it costs to register the bond in your name and also to register the property in your name. So there are two registrations that are required. And we're going to do the exercise based on a 25-year bond. Now when you go to the bank and apply for a bond, you can opt for either 20-year, 15, 20, 25 or 30-year bond. And as a buy-to-let investor, I always go for as long a period as possible, because what that does is brings my initial bond repayment down. And we all know the first couple of years is the hardest part. You can always later on add more to save yourself interest. But the longer this period is, the more interest you're actually going to pay in the long term, but the cheaper it's going to be in the beginning. So that's an exercise you have to look at and make the decision yourself. And of course, Prime is sitting at 7%. At the moment, it's now September 2020, and we are 6 months into the lockdown, and the economy's been hammered for the last 6 months, and you're thinking, hang on, can I buy property now? Will the banks still lend me money? And the question is, yes, the banks will lend you money. It's their business. Everyone's trying to be in business, and the bank's business is to lend you money. And your business is to show the bank that you are a good risk, that you are a person that, in other words, the person who's going to sign on the dotted line and lend you the money, he's not going to lose his job over lending you the money. You just got to make it easy for him. We're not going to the bank cap in hand saying, oh, please, can I have some money? You're actually saying, I'm a good prospect, fund me, please. Okay, so let's jump into the numbers. So on a 600,000 Rand bond, at Prime, over 25 years, I've done the calculations, and your bond repayment is 4,240 Rand per month. And then the bank is going to say, okay, in addition to you paying your bond, you have to pay your levies and your rates. Because they make the assumption that you have to be able to afford all of this. They won't take rental into account at this point at all. So your levies and your rates combined will be about 2,000 Rand for a property of this size. So in other words, your total cost is 6,240. And banks being banks, they wear belts and they wear braces to keep their pants up. And although Prime is sitting at 7%, they're saying, well, what happens if Prime moves to 8? And I've done the calculation, and the difference in 1% is about 400 Rand a month. So let's add 400 Rand here. And we get to this number of 6,640 Rand. So to get a 100% bond with a bank, you need to firstly have a good credit score, which we spoke about earlier. And then you need to show the bank that you can afford 6,640 Rand a month in your budget. They look at your monthly income and expenses and say, can this person afford 6,640? And if you can, then you're in the money. So now let's look at the next scenario where you say, hang on, I always know that in property finance, you need to use as much of other people's money as possible. So if you're a first-time buyer and you've never bought a property before, you're in luck. Because what happens is the banks try to incentivize you because they see you as a future potential customer, and they want to give you an incentive. So what they do is they say, this 34,000 Rand here, we're going to pay some of that. We're going to give you a 104% bond. So 624,000 is a 104% bond. 4% of 600,000 is 24,000 Rand. So you can see what they're doing is they're contributing 24,000 Rand to the cost of 34. So if you're a first-time buyer, what they're saying is you only have to come up with 10,000 Rand as your deposit, as your amount of cash to buy this property. It's weird, isn't it? You're coming up with 10,000 Rand to buy a property. Anyway, let's get into the numbers. So on the 624,000, I've done the numbers, and your bond repayment is 4,410. That's again over with Prime and over 25 years. And then they look at that 2,000 Rand again for levies and rates. gives you your 6,410 per month. And of course the safety factor, the prime safety factor, they add another 400 Rand there, and they come to 6,810. So if you're a first time buyer and you've got a good credit score, and you can show the bank that you've got a surplus 6,810 Rand in your monthly budget, then you're going to be able to qualify for a starter bond and buy property with 10,000 Rand. So I don't know about you, but that kind of makes me excited. And now about that free giveaway that I spoke about earlier. You know, in years of property coaching, over and over again, I've seen people sit before me and they've made the same mistakes over and over and over again. And these are mistakes that are so easy to avoid, and yet they cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of rands. What I recommend before you buy a single property is that you speak to a coach, be it an informal coach or a formal coach, but somebody who's got the experience, who's done exactly this before, so that you don't go make the same mistakes they make. At Organic Growth, we offer two options. We offer a 45-minute strategic planning session, or we offer a 2-hour detailed blueprint planning session. In the blueprint planning session, we go through a certain amount of training, and then we finish off with a full investment blueprint, planning out how you're going to go about getting to that place of financial freedom. To summarize then, we offer the 45-minute strategic planning session or the full 2-hour blueprint planning session. And what we're giving away as completely free to one of our subscribers is the 45-minute strategic planning session worth 1,050 Rand. Yesterday, while I was editing this video, a young lady came to meet me. We had a strategic coaching session planned, and she was about to buy her first property. And she came in here with all the information. She was fallen in love with this property. She was all excited. And before she signed on the dotted line, she thought, let me talk to Neil. And she booked a session, came to see me. And within about 5 or 10 minutes, we could see that actually she was about to pay 20 to 25% above market price for this property. So at first she was a bit deflated, like, oh no. But then she realized, wow, I nearly wasted a whole lot of money. And so she left here armed with the information, knowing what the real market price was for this property. She could go back to the agent and say, no, this is the real price. These are the facts. And either negotiate down to the real price or go and find an alternative property that was at the right price. So for her, she was delighted. She said, money well spent, time well spent. So to qualify for this free giveaway, we want 3 things of you. Firstly, we'd like you to subscribe, because only subscribers are going to be able to qualify. Secondly, we'd like to see a comment. I want to see where you're from. It's very interesting to see where everybody's from. And in your comment, please, if you have anything to say about the video, whether there's something that you would like to ask or something good you found about the video that will really help others, please comment. And then thirdly, share this on social media. So if you do those 3 things, comment, subscribe and share, you qualify. At the end of September, we'll award this free giveaway to one of our subscribers. Thank you for watching this video, and before you go, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe by hitting this icon, or you may want to watch this video or this video, which will be of interest to you. And see you next time.